So, how's life at the big company?
Definitely a big company, but it's great. We're really working hard on our integration. We've integrated very well into HP. Todd sends his apologies for not being here today. He got called away, but working as part of Todd's organization has been really good. We took the emerging business unit out of that was going on in PSG, which is what we're part of.
That's the HP Personal Systems
Group working for Todd, and merged that in with Palm. So we actually pulled a couple hundred people from HP, made them part of the Palm Global Business Unit, which is what we are today, and broadened our scope from what we were doing when we were just Palm, and we're cranking away right now.
So when you say broadened your scope, what does that mean?
Well, our view is that as things progress forward, we're going to see more and more devices. So today, it started, before people had sort of one device, and in some cases they even share the device. As we proceed forward, people have multiple devices, and they're going to have more and more devices, and HP's in the middle of all of this. Our objective with WebOS is to deliver a unified HP experience across a variety of devices. So today, obviously, we're working on smartphones, and that's really important to us, but we expanded to working on tablets, and those are coming next year. We've got some other ideas in the pipeline we're not ready to talk about yet. Expect to get the WebOS experience on printers in the future, and expect that we'll deliver a connected WebOS experience across a variety of devices.
Now, I want to get deeper into that, but
Okay.
I'm going to back up for a second before we do, and ask you about a little history. This isn't your first time working at HP.
It's not. I started at HP, 30 plus years ago. This was sort of my first real job, since you didn't like Computerland. First real job out of college.
Right. And so you were an engineer there, if I recall, right?
Yeah.
And you, I'm not sure if you, in between you left HP, you worked at a supercomputer company, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Was that Art?
It was Ardent.
Ardent, right.
Yes.
And then you went to a place where you started working for a mercurial guy by the name of Steve Jobs, right?
That's true.
So, anyone remember Next? So, what did you learn at Next? What was that experience like, and how did it play forward?
Well, actually, it was a really interesting experience. We were trying to create both new hardware and new software, create a new standard in the industry, and we just sort of ran out of time, which is not unusual for companies trying to really innovate and trying to create something new, and so. We ended up splitting off the company into hardware and software. It's interesting that the software ended up being the foundation for what is today, Mac OS. And we spun off a separate hardware company and ended up selling that, interestingly enough, to the Motorola Computer Group at the time. And so, we created a lot of really interesting technologies, which I think had a long-term influence on the market.
Absolutely, and one of the things that you were saying is you're creating a hardware platform and creating a software platform. That's similar to Palm in a way, right?
Similar to what Apple does to what
right.
Palm does, and I think it's one of my core beliefs is that to really innovate, you have to do the whole user experience. The hardware, the software, the cloud services, the marketing around it, the packaging. All the details really
So that's what's called the vertically integrated stack.
Right.
And that is the hallmark of Apple.
Mm-hmm.
Now you worked at Apple and were a really key person in the team. As a matter of fact, tell me what it was like when you decided to take the job at Apple. What did Apple feel like when you walked in those doors?
It was a disaster. I got there about 6 months before Steve came back, and basically the company was going out of business. It had lost its way, it lost its focus. There was no innovation. It was really terrible, and I think a very dedicated team of people who worked very, very hard for many, many years did some amazing things.
And one of the first things that you did, as I recall, is you pulled 15 or 20 product lines together and sort of focused. And this was when the iMac, remember, the colorful clamshell computer came out, and then the G3 and you ran that hardware division, not unlike, it's an interesting, now here you are at HP, with a device division, right? Then came along this iPod, and you were given the job of making that happen. So tell me a little bit about how did the idea that, we were going to reinvent the Walkman, basically, for the digital age, how did that come about, and how did you end up being the guy in charge of it?
Yeah. So I was running all of hardware engineering at the time, inside all the product development. We were adding CD burning drives to both the Tower and the iMac at the time, and we were developing iTunes, so you could, if everyone remembers, rip, mix, burn. That was what that was about. And
yeah, that really made Hollywood happy.
Yeah. So while we were all playing with iTunes, we started playing with a couple of the mobile, the mobile music players that were available at the time, and they were terrible. They were awful. And so we looked at technology, and Steve said, well, why don't you go off and figure out how to make one of these things, and obviously make it like an Apple would make it. And I think that there were a couple of key technologies that converged at the time that enabled us to build a product that was vastly superior to anything else on the market. And it was FireWire, it was the small hard drive, it was the cost and quality of displays coming to a point because of mobile phones, basically. Same thing for battery technology. Those put together, along with the software environment we built both on the device, great user experience, and then off the device with iTunes, and then building a third-party ecosystem around it, really created something that frankly, it's something we all wanted to have.
Right.
Because we all love music, and we wanted to be able to take our music with us.
So that was a big success, obviously, and you were a sort of key man at Apple, and then you retired. You retired 5 years ago from Apple, and when you retired, there were already whispers that, gee, this thing that plays this music and it's all digital would be a pretty cool phone. And then you unretired, and you went to Palm and made a vertically integrated stack that was a phone. Were you still getting Christmas cards from Steve Jobs at that point?
No, I'm definitely off the Christmas list. But you have to remember that the Palm, in many ways, created this space. I mean, they were the first. I mean, everyone probably here had a Palm 5 or some kind of Palm organizer in the past. Everyone has a really good feeling for Palm, and it created the smartphone space with the Trio and with some of the other products that they did. So. By birthright, I guess, Palm should have been very, very successful in this marketplace, and it lost its way. I mean, it's a very similar story to what happened with Apple, and so I was actually retired. There's no relationship to what happened at Apple versus Palm. I was actually working on a different project, and that's building a house at the time. And when I was approached of, hey, here's a company that was always vertically integrated, understood the user experience, had really, really good DNA, and needed to sort of get re-injected with innovation, get a new team brought in. I thought it was a really interesting opportunity. This space is growing dramatically. I mean, the original premise of when I joined Palm 3.5 years ago has absolutely played out. Right? This is a huge market. It's growing rapidly. People are moving. Moving to smartphones and other mobile devices at an accelerated pace. The cloud services, are absolutely getting stronger and stronger, and people's lives are moving, into the cloud, and you manage them over a mobile device. And so the original concept that we had when I went into Palm is absolutely played out, so I everyone always wants to put this as sort of an Apple versus Palm thing, but I've never really looked at it that way. It's a huge market, and there's plenty of room for several successful players.
So, the HP acquisition, you had a number of suitors at the time, and we're going to talk to Frank Quattrone later, who's involved in the deal. He'll be here. Why did you choose HP?
Well, in an acquisition, you don't get to choose. All right, so and HP was the highest bidder, but I think that there's a compelling reason why.
You could have fought.
They would, well, yeah, you get sued. You get sued anyway, but you know, no matter what you do, you get sued. But you know, it made sense, okay? And you know, HP needed a strong mobile strategy, one around which they could innovate and they could control their own future, not rely on the kindness of strangers. Right?
Are strangers people like Steve Ballmer?
That would certainly be one case, right? So, you know, the other side of it is we needed more resources, and it wasn't just a cash thing. We had plenty of cash in the bank. If you sort of fast forwarded the game, the amount of resources you need to be successful in the mobile device space was much larger than Palm could muster. And so while we weren't going out of business the next day, you know, we could not compete in a fashion that would allow us to be one of the premier players in the marketplace, and that's what we really wanted. And so I think that putting you know, HP and Palm together and the acquisition was absolutely the right thing to do, and I think it's going to play out really, really well for both all those loyal Palm customers out there, obviously the Palm employees, and for HP long term.
Now, before this strategy was unveiled by HP, that they were acquiring Palm and investing heavily in WebOS, and I want to get into WebOS a bit in a second, I think everybody kind of assumed that HP's approach to the mobile marketplace was, you know, an evolved version of what they were already doing, which was they had Android devices, they had Windows 7 devices, they were going to kind of play the field and have tablets that, you know, used whatever OS seemed to be winning at the time, and you know, keep feeding that ecosystem as a device player. And you know, I don't think people initially understood that perhaps this was HP making a vertical stack declaration. Is it fair to say that this is HP making a vertical stack declaration, which moves them away in the device world from their traditional point of view, which has been one of the largest partners to Microsoft and Windows, you know, in the world?
Yeah, and you know, I mean, they are still very, very close partners with Microsoft in the PC space. No question about it. You know, I think there's a very, very strong relationship there. I think from a device space, if you want to be competitive and if you want to differentiate long term, and if you want to deliver a great experience, you have to go this way. And, you know, that's my personal opinion, but obviously through you know, the acquisition of the company, I think that's how HP feels long term as well. So we have significantly focused, you know, all the resources we have to really drive you know, innovation in WebOS-based devices, and you know, that's true on the smartphones. It's true on the tablet. Now we are, you know, a different group is doing you know, a Windows-based tablet that's targeted for corporate customers. So
is that an enterprise?
It's an enterprise class product. It just came out recently, and it's you know, it's you know, seems to be selling well, and you know, if you have a corporation that needs something based on Windows in a tablet form factor, it's a great product. But all the rest of the efforts focused around delivering a great WebOS experience and delivering HP, you know, great HP products for next year. So, you know, while today we have nothing to show today. I mean, we just closed. Everyone forgets we just closed this thing, you know, on July 1st. So, you know, it takes a while to get your roadmaps realigned, get everything going in the same direction. But next year we have a great lineup of products that are coming. You know, we just announced our pre-2 with WebOS 2.0. And I think that was the WebOS 2.0 effort was you know, a great effort, and I'd love to talk about that a little bit more. But you know, we're just starting to ship that, and you know, you'll see us roll out WebOS 2.0 to our installed customer base over the next few months, and you know, so that's sort of the beginning of rolling into next year, where you know, I think that you know, at the same time next year, you'll see us be in a very different position than we're in today.
So give us a, you know, 2 or 3 highlights of what it is that you believe WebOS has that separates it or distinguishes it from Android or the iOS.
So only 2 or 3? I mean, I can go on and on. So
we don't have that much time. Give me the top 2 or 3.
Okay. So you know, I think there's some key elements that we built into WebOS from the beginning. I mean, we had the unique opportunity to develop WebOS basically from a blank sheet of paper. Palm OS had been 15 years, 16 years old, which is actually remarkable when you think about it. And because it was so old, there really wasn't much we could leverage. So we made a fundamental decision that the cloud was the future, and that we were going to build an operating system that would integrate seamlessly into the cloud. All right? And so if we look at WebOS today, I mean, we have great features like Synergy, which allows you to bring data down from the cloud and give you a unified view of your data. We've got, you know, really sophisticated multitasking, and with WebOS 2.0, we have our new stack card paradigm, which makes it even easier to do, you know, multiple tasks, you know, simultaneously. We've got because you've got the ability to run multiple things at the same time, you have to have unobtrusive notifications. We've got a great notification strategy, and I mean, the list goes on. Over-the-air updates is a huge one. Because we've done, like, since the original introduction, we've done over a dozen updates that brought new features and new capabilities. We have a great feature, universal search, which we now call Just Type, and that's what it is. You just type on the device, and great things happen. You can search, you can add. With 2.0, we actually have open Synergy and open Just Type, and so that developers can actually develop plugins for those things. Users can customize their device and you know, add more kinds of search capability to Just Type. So it's not just you know Google or Facebook or Wikipedia or whatever, but you can, you know, any website that has search capability built into it. When you access that website, WebOS 2.0 gives you the opportunity to add that to your Just Type search. So it's some really cool stuff that we're working on.
What are your expectations as, I mean, you know, proud sort of, you know, chief of a company that gets acquired? Oftentimes companies that get acquired are swallowed whole and spend years wandering the halls. And I'm curious, you know, when the former CEO of HP, and that's been an interesting rodeo in and of itself the past few months, and I'm sure that was not a distraction at all. But when Mark heard right after the acquisition, one of the first things he said was, we didn't acquire Palm to get into the smartphone business, which everyone said, huh? Because they understood you to be a smartphone company. Well, I think what he meant was what we've been discussing, right, in terms of the device world and rolling that out. But what are your expectations? Like, what's going to make you happy a year from now in terms of market share? Are there really, is there room for 4 or 5 players in this space? You know, Android, Windows 7, you know, yourselves, iOS, RIM. There's so many players. Do you think there's going to continue to be players, and will you be satisfied with having your share of that market, or do you think that there's going to be consolidation?
So you know, let me first say that the original concept around this was, you know, connected devices, and that was the HP vision of it. And that's an exact right vision, and that's why they move forward with this. And that hasn't changed at all. You know, while we've integrated into HP, we are not wandering the hallways. We are in Sunnyvale, where we've always been. And while we've integrated, you know, there's parts of HP that we've integrated in, and we've brought some of the management team from HP. We've hired some new great people from the outside. You know, on Monday, a guy named Ari Joxie starts, and Ari did both MIMO and MeeGo at Nokia, and he's going to get a chance to work on a really great OS that he gets to ship in volume. So we've got a great management team that's a combination of both the HP people and the Palm people. So the HP people that have joined our management team help us find our way around the hallways. And we haven't gotten this sort of overburdening thing you get sometimes when you get acquired. HP's and Todd in particular has been very sensitive to keeping us separate enough that we can deliver what we need to go deliver. Because we're very, very busy right now. We got a lot of stuff going on. So the second half of the question is do I think that there's room in the market? And the answer is, absolutely yes. I've always said that, hey, there's, as Palm, I've always said that, hey, there's, room for 3 to 5 players, and clearly, we have critical acclaim as people say that we have the best mobile device operating system out there, but we didn't have the scale to be successful with HP. We have the scale. If I channeled my inner Todd, he'd say it's an irrelevant question because, of course, HP is going to be successful in this.
It's a large company. Was it in some way, and I feel it may be unfair, you're new to HP, but you're the guy from HP, so I got to ask, has it been a distraction, all the sort of senior level management changes and the press stories and Larry Ellison, sort of mouthing off about HP and so on. Has that in any way been a distraction or changed your focus?
I would say it was a surprise, as it was, I'm sure, to everybody. And clearly it caused a day or two of buzz in the hallways. But, from a Palm perspective, we're very, very clear about what our mission is, what we need to go accomplish, and what's happening with us, and it doesn't really impact us very much.
Right.
So while you see constant stream of stuff in the press, from an inside of Palm, the Palm GBU point of view, it's not something we pay a lot of attention to.
I want to invite questions, and you guys know where the mics are, so please come up. We only have a few minutes left, so come on up if you have any questions for John. I have one for you, which it strikes me that so far in the connected device business, has really been a hits business. The Trio was a hit. Mm-hmm. I had one, and the iPhone clearly was a hit, and a number of the Droid devices have been hits. Do you think, first of all, what hits do you have coming? Mm-hmm. If you can just give us some sense of what might be coming, or perhaps say, wouldn't it be cool if a product did X? And is that framework going to continue, or do you see it sort of moving out of the hits business and into the more functionality or, function-specific device business?
I think it's absolutely a hits business, and we've got some great products in the pipeline for next year. We've got some great smartphones. We've got a great tablet coming. We've got some other things we're working on, and I think that we have several products that will clearly be hits when they come out. And so we're very, very excited about what we're doing on them. And WebOS has a very loyal installed base already, and one that's
how big
growing
is
rapidly.
that base? I mean, just
we haven't published numbers publicly, but it's pretty substantial to work from. And our application catalog has been growing rapidly, especially since the acquisition. We're investing a lot of resources this year into the app catalog and bringing more and more developers on board. One of the great things about WebOS is how easy it is to develop for, and the different methods we give you to develop for WebOS. So you can get grovel down in the details using our plug-in development kit, or you can stay at a much higher level and with basically a web-based development environment, and you can just drag and drop. So we see a lot of great things coming on the developer side of things as well.
Let me ask you a developer question. This is sort of a chicken and the egg issue here. If you're not going to say how big the world is that WebOS represents, as a developer, it's difficult to determine whether or not I should invest the resources in developing for it. And while I think your thesis that there's room for multiple players is true, it's a very big market and getting much bigger, as Mary pointed out. Startups have don't have infinite resource. How can you get them excited about developing something when they don't know how big the marketplace is where they're developing?
Yeah. So first of all, I think that as we go through this coming year, you'll see us aggressively rolling out new devices and You know, at some point in time, we'll get printers on WebOS as well, and so you're going to see that the pool of potential WebOS devices is going to grow very, very dramatically in the next 12 to 18 months.
And the sales figures for those devices will come out.
You know, I don't know how HP handles that, so
Yeah.
I'm going to be listening to my first conference call in the next little while. So,
Yeah.
You know, I think it will be pretty obvious that,
Yeah.
that there's tremendous growth there. But also look at it at the ease of developing on top of WebOS is really important. What we find is some developers start on WebOS. Some of our developers start there first because it's so easy to build an app and then they can move it somewhere else. Or in the case of you know, we have a lot of emphasis around 3D gaming, and we've worked with a lot of the 3D gaming companies, and I guess Bing's up next. But you know, the ability to port 3D apps from the iPhone, for example, I mean, Angry Birds took 3 days. Right? So it's not this huge investment. You know, we made a very, I think, very interesting decision, and one that was you know, pretty advanced thinking, but also risky, of basing our entire user interface on web-based standards. So it's you know, it's based on WebKit, and it runs JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Right? And we have a plugin which allows you to bring things like 3D gaming and OpenGL and stuff into the platform. But you know, that is such an easy environment to develop for. And the definition of a developer, you know, who's a developer? Well, anyone who can develop you know, a browser, something in a browser, can develop on you know, on top of WebOS. So it really opens up the pool of potential developers. So, and I think that's going to really play well over the next couple of years.
We have time for one question. You get it.
Hi there, John. Am I on? Yes. Great. I wanted to ask a little bit about the time frame for these smartphones and tablets next year, if you've got an estimate of when we're going to see some devices to really be excited about.
So you know, when you know, stay tuned, I guess. So sorry, you know, I can't tell you the specific dates, but we got some great stuff coming. And so if you're a WebOS aficionado out there, be patient. They're coming.
And this new hardware, is it going to push the envelope? We've seen a great OS, and we've seen some hardware that's just up to par now in the Palm Pre 2. Are these new devices going to push the envelope further? We're going to see dual-core processors, things like that are going to excite people who like the OS but want some muscle underneath?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you know, when we first delivered the Pre, we were actually ahead of everyone at the time. And the problem is when you go through an acquisition, you know, you kind of get the wind knocked out of your sails a bit. So things kind of stalled for a bit, and you know, everyone worries about what's going to happen with my vacation and things like that. But everyone's back to work now. We've got this really great roadmap, and we're executing. You know, I always try to do products that are leading edge and that use the latest and greatest technologies and are really, really innovative. And you know, I expect us to continue that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, please join me in thanking John for coming here.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks
so much.
Thank you very much.